Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to Lexplosion's continuing series of webinars. Thank you for sparing the time to join us for a session on the key regulatory changes in the pharmaceutical sector, UCPMP, Schedule M, and beyond. I am Ananya, and I, along with my colleague Soham Thakur, both of us lawyers in Lexplosion, will be discussing some of the key highlights and the impact of the revised Schedule M under the Drugs and Cosmetics Act of 1940 and the Uniform Code on Pharmaceutical Marketing Practices, or commonly called the UCPMP 2024. Later in the session, we will be joined by Suvajit Chakraborty and Sonal Sharma, each of whom are experts in the field of pharma and medical devices. And they will share their in-depth insights and practical experiences in navigating through these complex regulatory regimes. Whether you're involved in manufacturing, quality assurance, regulatory affairs, or marketing within the pharmaceutical industries, we believe that this session will be very valuable to each one of you and help you navigate through these important changes. Before we move ahead, we would just like to inform all the attendees that this session was recorded slightly ahead of the actual time of the presentation. This is basically to ensure that there are no last minute technical glitches, and one of our co-panelists is traveling, so he will not be available to take part in our live Q&A session. But we will be available to take questions towards the end of the session if time permits, of course. You can post your questions along with your email address in the chat window, and we will get back to you.
A very good afternoon, everyone. In this webinar, we will be looking at an overview of the various new concepts which have been brought about by the revised Schedule M and also thereafter at the UCPMP 2024. We will be highlighting the key changes from the 2014 version of the UCPMP. We will also be touching upon some of the major developments in the pipeline. Now it's August 2024, which essentially means that pharma companies with a turnover of more than 250 crores should have put in place systems and processes aligned with the new and improved good manufacturing practices and requirements of premises, plant and equipment of pharmaceutical products, aka Schedule M. July 2024 was the timeline given to the companies with a turnover of more than 250 crores, while those with less than 250 crores of turnover has a little more time in hand till January 2025. Now, the good manufacturing practices, or GMP as the world of pharma knows it, basically brought in stricter standards and updated requirements not only for pharmaceutical product but also for the manufacturing equipment in use as well as the premises. The Department of Health and Family Welfare has sought to bring in the Indian GMP in line with the international standards, which basically elevates the standard of Indian pharmaceutical products which are going out into the world.
Absolutely, Soam. The revised Schedule M has brought about some new concepts that are in line with the international marketing standards, like the pharmaceutical quality system, the quality risk management, product quality review, complaints, and also change control. In addition to this, the schedule has amplified the concepts that existed in the earlier schedule as well. So these could be the use of computerized system for risk assessments, equipment qualification, inspection, quality audit plans, and this also includes the supplier audits and approval. And now they have also introduced a total of 11 product specific requirements, which extend to premises, the equipment, personnel, quality control, and of course, risk assessment as well. We'll delve into these changes in just a bit and also explore its impact for pharmaceutical companies and also discuss the impact it has both on manufacturing practices as well as compliance.
Ananya, I just have one question for you here. That is pharma quality system, the quality risk management, and product quality review. So, did these not exist as a concept in the earlier regime?
Well, we do know that a highly regulated industry like that of pharmaceuticals could obviously not have been in operation without having these in place. I think the only difference being that the guidelines were probably different for different companies and their individual operating mechanisms. So, the PQS or the pharmaceutical quality system has sought to intertwine mainly three aspects, and this is according to me, three aspects which is deep involvement of and participation of the management of the company, good manufacturing practices, and quality risk management. I think what they've sought to do is bring about a holistic approach there where they want to lay emphasis on a unified quality system, and they want to integrate all aspects of pharmaceutical production right from raw material procurement to the final product distribution. And on risk management, I think the schedule has stressed very heavily on the fact that there have to be proper channels for the identification of potential risks and the corrective measures around the prioritization of these risks.
Okay, so but what kind of an impact would these risks have on product safety, quality, and of course regulatory compliances as well?
I think all control strategies have to be clearly documented. I think that comes out very clearly, and these have to have periodic reviews, making sure that all of these are in line with the SOPs and the strategies are completely up to date. So, if we're talking about risks, we do know that audits and inspections are a part of pharma companies' lives, and warning letters and audit observations are something that we all dread. So, while we're talking about change control practices, we know that it has obviously always been in place, and the revised schedule has mandated that the connected effects it can have on and it needs to have strict documentation of the changes that are being brought about as and when it occurs. And I think the last point is on audit by loan licensees on contract manufacturing facilities. So this something again is something that has been in practice. It's not something that is new. But since there have been several non-compliances that have been found in things like maintaining the sterility of premises, product quality, and personnel not being adequately trained, I think, and also final packaging techniques. I think that's the reason India has bear the brunt of expose of kind of exporting supposed spurious drugs in the recent past. Now, along with this, there has been brought about a new, another change that has been brought about really is the uniform code of pharmaceutical marketing practices, and this affects both the this is for both the drug manufacturers as well as medical device manufacturers and importers and all of that. So the entire industry as a whole. So, if we can turn our attention now to the key highlights of the UCPMP 2024 and discuss that a little more.
Sure, Anand. So, if we compare the erstwhile voluntary UCPMP of 2014 with the code of 2024, the code of 2024 explicitly makes it applicable to medical devices as well as entities manufacturing or dealing with the sale and distribution of these pharma products. Also, the code of 2024 requires the chief executive officer of each company to bear the onus of ensuring compliance with this code's provisions and thereafter submit a self-declaration stating compliance with the code to the respective pharmaceutical associations within a span of 2 months from the date of completion of a financial year. So this basically means that for the year of 2024, the declaration has already been submitted by 30th of May.
Thanks, Soam, for that quick summary on the code. Now, to focus on some of the key changes that have been brought about from the earlier UCPMP 2014. Some of the new concepts, and I'll just talk about one, which is the brand reminder. So, this is a new concept that has been introduced, and it is broadly brought into two categories, and that's coming up on your screen: informational and educational items. Now, and the other one is free samples that are being provided by companies to medical professionals. So, if we're talking about the first one, which is informational and educational items, these will kind of include everything from books, calendars, diaries, journals. It includes e-journals, dummy device models, and clinical treatment guidelines. All of these provided to professionals to be used in their healthcare settings, and the value of all of these cannot exceed 1,000 rupees per items. There's also another catch here: the fact that these items cannot be of independent commercial value to any of these healthcare professionals. The other one is on free samples that are being provided to medical professionals. For this point, I think there need to be record of the recipients of these free drug samples, and these need to be maintained very carefully. And these free samples can be provided up to a maximum of 12 sample packs per drug annually per practitioner. So there are various aspects to this. So um, and for companies, they now need to have they need to be able to track and report these details of their sample distribution as well. And for that, they need to ensure that it does not exceed 2% of their domestic sales value per year. So there are a couple of other concepts also. If we can start with the continuing medical education in the code of 2024, if you can just talk about that, please.
Absolutely, Ananya. So, on continuing medical education or continuing professional development, these as concepts are absolutely new concepts in the code of 2024, and they bring in or they refer basically to various events like the conferences, seminars, workshops, etc., which are organized to keep the stakeholders in the medical and the pharma industry abreast of the various changes and the trends that are currently there in the market. So, but these events, they need to follow certain specific mandates as per this UCPMP 2024. Breaking them down, the first one would be the events cannot be held at any foreign locations. The second would be it can be organized only by approved organizers like medical colleges, professional associations, research institutions, and pharmaceutical companies in collaboration with relevant bodies. Also, pharmaceutical companies must disclose the event details and the expenses on and their expenses on these events, which would be subject to audits. So these expenses need to be displayed on their website. Organizers of these events must also outline the participant and the speaker selection processes, the funding sources, as well as the expenses on their website as well, which also would be subject to audits. Now, Ananda, I just wanted to add something here that is in similar lines. If we were to compare the Indian scenario to the likes of the European Medicines Agency, the US FDA, and the Singapore Medical Council, we've just picked these three jurisdictions primarily for our discussion today. So these agencies, if we may call them, lay down similar transparent and verifiable processes. But they additionally mention that these CME programs or these continuing medical education programs cannot be intended for promotional activities. While we are on some of the practices across the globe, it is worth mentioning that these agencies, including the UCPMP, specifically prohibit any kind of financial inducements from being given to the healthcare professionals in order to ensure that they have complete unbiased medical judgments when they are carry forward their duties. Also, on anti-inducement measures against gifts, travel, hospitality, as well as monetary grants, the European Medical Agency and the Singapore Medical Council has stricter reporting mechanisms, while the US FDA additionally prohibits any kind of any kind of entertainment or recreational items in their list of prohibited inducements. If we quickly look at the last two highlights of the UCPMP 2024, the relationship of pharmaceutical companies with healthcare professionals. The new code specifies that travel facilities and hospitality, these should not be extended to healthcare professionals as well as their family members for any kind of vacations or the seminars or conferences or any such other events under the continuing medical education or continuing professional development programs, unless such person is a speaker at such of these programs. There is another new concept on support for research, where the code specifically mentions that the research or the studies that are being done must have approval from the specific authorities like ICMR, DCGI, and they need to be conducted at recognized sites or locations. Again, engagement of healthcare professionals in these research should be on a consultant advisory basis, and they should be only for genuine research purposes. They should be under consultancy agreements and with specific consultancy fees or honorarium based payments.
Yeah, so I think there have been several questions raised about the quality of Indian pharma products after the eye drop or the eye ointment, and also the cough syrup fiasco that claimed several lives, unfortunately. So I think this has impacted the Indian pharma exports negatively, whether if we are talking about API or we're talking about finished drugs from India to various parts of the world. And you spoke about the European Medical Agency and the US FDA, as well as several drug control authorities around the world. All of them have kind of put in place more stringent quality control measures, and we do know that. During and post COVID, there seems to have been a steep increase in data integrity issues where the US FDA has issued several warning letters to very, very large pharma companies in India in the form of 483.
Yes, absolutely, Ananya. And just to add, even India has taken a major step towards it with the track and trace system for export of drugs. Now, although the track and trace system, it's not a new system, but the proposal has been in place since 2016 under the Handbook of Procedures. It has seen a periodic extension of timeline, with the current extension being till 1st of February 2025. Um, Now, Para 2.76 of the Handbook of Procedures 2023 for the export of drugs in India, it outlines a comprehensive track and trace system to ensure traceability and safety of pharmaceutical products throughout the supply chain. As a part of this, serialization is a very key component, where every drug package which is assigned, it needs to be assigned a unique serial number for unique identification. Now, this serial number is a part of a very large data, which includes product details, batch numbers, manufacturing and expiry dates, and more. Also, the barcoding and the QR codes act as additional unique identifiers which are to be printed on the drug. There are several layers of the drug packaging. Also, data capture and reporting is a very important step here. The manufacturers of pharmaceuticals they are responsible for generating and encoding the serial numbers on these drug packages, and they also need to upload these data on the Dava portal, which is basically the centralized database developed by the central government. Now, before shipping, the exporters also need to verify the serialized data and make sure that it aligns with the information in the central database.
Yeah, so I just want to add one point here. The drugs are checked at various points in the supply chain, right? So from the manufacturing side, the distribution centers, custom points, all of these are the checkpoints. And this is more to ensure compliance with the serialization and the tracking requirements, right? Um, I think there's just one more point, which is that the regulatory authorities can conduct random audits and checks to kind of ensure that the track and trace system is functioning correctly and that there are no discrepancies that are being found.
Absolutely, and thanks for that input, Ananya. So to ensure that someone does not fall foul of the requirement, it should be ensured that all products are properly serialized before export, and all required documentation, which includes the serialization data and the compliance certificates, they need to be complete. Now, the export data, as I mentioned already, must also be uploaded on the DAWA portal by the exporters, which includes the details of the shipment as well as the destination. Now, during export, the custom authorities and other relevant agencies will keep on verifying that the serialized data matches the records in its central database. And the system also continues to track the drugs as they move through the international supply chain. The exporters and importers also need to maintain accurate records and ensure data integrity throughout the supply chain.
Thanks for that sum up, Soham. We have two speakers joining us for the session today, each of whom are luminaries in the world of pharma. We've got Suvajit Chakraborty. Currently, Suvajit is working as Associate General Counsel and Director Legal and Compliance for Revvity. Revvity is an American global corporation focused in the business areas of medical devices, clinical diagnostics, applied genomics, life science research and testing. Shubhajit has previously worked with Cipla, Star TV, and the Times of India Group, looking after diverse legal and regulatory issues. And Shubhajit brings to the table a huge amount of experience of being in the pharma industry. We also have Sonal Sharma. Sonal is the head of legal affairs and compliance for Menarini, India. This is a subsidiary of the Italian pharmaceutical multinational Menarini Group. Sonal brings with her a strong legal background with several years of experience in the pharmaceutical industry, including her previous role at Boehringer. Thank you so much for joining us today, Shubhajit and Sonal. So to start off this discussion, Shubhajit, if we can start with you, we know that the Indian pharmaceutical industry is the largest by volume as of 2024. This is what is in the statistics. This obviously has had a huge impact on all our EOUs and our generic exports, which is obviously directly proportional to the GMP, which is in the US, and also if you're looking at the European Union GMP. Both of these, as we recognize and acknowledge, are much more stringent as compared to the Indian GMP in the revised scheme of things in Schedule M. So, keeping in mind these things and the competitive standards, do you think that the new changes in the GMP and generally other changes that are being brought about, do you think that this would bring us closer to the international standards?
Thank you for the question. So let us understand what exactly has happened over the new Schedule M that has come in. So the important thing is that our GMP guidelines, which were there, which based on a law which was there in 1940, the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, and on the Schedule M being added, there have been a requirement which is being provided on a varied form. So I just want to touch upon on a few matters as you have asked that where we are leading to for the thing from the perspective. So first one is very, very important, which has come in from the salient features that I want to touch upon is the, I'll not go very in depth into the same, but I will just talk about the main focus point which we are looking. So our salient features that have been enshrined in the new GMP is the requirement for construction of building under GMP, for premises and material under Schedule M1, uh, which talks about the how the factory per se was needs to be manufactured so that it could meet the required GMP obligations, which meets the global standard. Also, it talks about the requirement of supply of water and the GMP, how you are disposing your waste, how are you doing your warehousing, the requirement of production, uh, and the quality control, which is there. It also talks about how your ancillary areas of GMPs needs to be looked into. What happens basically is that we had a policy which was there, which was pretty old. Now we have something which will make us come to the global standard. Whether those policies, because you have to understand, GMP is a continuously evolving process. So maybe what is working today may not be in a year or half, will be same thing will be working. And you have to understand that all our products which needs to maintain the GMP thing has to go across US, UK, Australia, Brazil, South Africa. All these are evolved market territories. So the GMP norms, it's very good thing that we have done right now, that we have revise certain things which were age old, but there is a huge scope of improvement which is there. And also understand a very important thing that this is GMPs and the Schedule M talks about the Indian thing which is there. A lot of foreign what else, MNCs who have presence here have certain stringent or processes which is a notch higher than the required Schedule M. So the Schedule M gives you the basic premise which is required to be followed. If you are following better premises from your internal comparative policies, it is never, it's always best for the company.
So that's great. So if I could just follow that up, and you mentioned that there are areas of improvement. Could you touch upon some of the areas that you think the Indian market or the Indian pharmaceutical industry could improve on?
Yeah, mainly documentation is something which is very, very important to be done. And I want to talk about something like how are you maintaining your records under GMP, under master formula records or batch packing records or batch processing records. Certain our what we have is the basic premises that we have. When we go into in depth of that, the US or GCPMP or the European GCPMP is much more detailed. So what happens is that when our product is getting sold or our product is getting audited, that's some requirement which is there, which is we have improved a lot, but still there are scopes of improvement. And I want to talk about that them in the quality control that we do, where maintaining certain things becomes very important from the scheduling perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah, those were absolutely excellent insights. Thank you, Suvajit, for that. If we can just turn a little bit towards the UCPMP. In terms of UCPMP, we know that there are changes that are being brought about in pharmaceutical companies. Sonal, if I can direct this question to you. What, according to you, are the operational changes that are being brought about? And do you think it is making the Indian pharmaceutical industry more competitive in the global market? Is that something that you see?
Yeah, so Ananya, yes, there are operational changes which are brought in by UCPMP. So if you see, there are lot many requirement under the UCPMP as far as promotions are concerned, as far as samples are concerned, the way the pharmaceutical companies can engage with HCPs, how to distribute sample, what data you need to maintain. How you can interact with your external stakeholder. There are lot many things which are described in the UCPMP, and of course pharmaceutical companies needs to revisit their SOPs, system guidelines, to check whether those guideline systems and SOPs are at par and in alignment with UCPMP. So if we say like the major impact it will have as far as dealing with healthcare professional is concerned. So like UCPMP restrict giving travel accommodation to HCPs who are not a speakers. So there are practices in which like pharmaceutical company are giving travel accommodation, everything to all the attendees apart from speakers. So they have to revisit their SOPs, their business practices as far as these operational things are concerned. Of course, they need to train their employees while dealing with healthcare professionals as well as while handling samples. There are certain guidelines as well provided for the sample handling in the UCPMP. So companies, if they are not maintaining the record, how the samples are distributed to which HCP, the date on which the samples are given. So all this record keeping needs to be maintained, which was which I guess are there, but companies might not have taken it that seriously. So, but as this is now a regulatory requirement, they have to maintain all these records, as well as they have to be mindful of how much sample can be distributed, because there is some cap has been provided in the UCPMP that you cannot give more than that, and the sample size and etc. So all this will have, of course, impact on the operations of the companies while dealing with their day-to-day work. They have to be mindful of all this requirement of the UCPMP. As far as global market competitiveness is concerned, what I will say, it has both, as per my personal opinion, it has both positive as well as negative impact. Positive, I will say, it will create trustworthiness of Indian pharmaceutical market. As far as the global standards are concerned, it will improve goodwill and trustworthiness of Indian pharma companies' reputation, as well as among the HCPs and, of course, consumers. But negative impact, I will say, I'm not sure whether I can call it as a negative, but of course it may have impact on compliance cost and operational changes which companies have to do, and it might impact the innovation and market growth. But I cannot I'm not sure at this point of time how it will impact, because the overall impact, I will say, is depend upon the how industry take it and how consistently they implement it. So this is,
Yeah, yeah. So thanks for that, Sonal. It is relatively new. So just a couple of things that in line with what you were just saying. So when we're talking about the time period that has been given for adaptation to, so there are SOPs that are being followed currently in every pharma company. So that, of course, needs change, and to a great extent actually. So for this, do you think there should be more time that should have been given to pharma companies, because it's just been brought in? Of course, when we're talking about the Schedule M, they've given not very much time, but considering it has already been in place, moving the documentation, bringing all of that together. So in terms of that, do you think giving more time would kind of help pharma companies?
Ananya, what I believe that as far as timing is concerned, this is of course my personal opinion. As far as timing is concerned, I'll not say that not a sufficient time, because see, UCPMP voluntary code was in place already since so many years, and
Yes.
there were time to time a request from the authorities to the pharma industry to follow that code. So though it is voluntary, most, I will say, every pharma company is aware that the code is in place, what are the requirements of code, and as far as the companies which are OPPI members, they anyways, as a member of OPPI, they have to follow these guidelines. So I will say that the SOPs are more or less in alignment of this voluntary code, except the new things which are introduced in the new code. So to implement those new thing, I'll not say that timeline is not sufficient, as far as regulatory authorities are giving some time for the audit implementation. So if example, there is a provision of audit, ad hoc audit on the companies. So as far as that audit is not retrospective effect, it is okay, I believe. No time pressure on the companies, because the code has been introduced in March 2023, and if government start audit, and as far as it is prospective audit, of course there is sufficient time to implement these changes, because broader framework is in place. Companies have to just revisit and do some changes if it is not in compliance with SOP. So my personal view is that timeline is not an issue. Issue is the audit which government may take, and if they consider it as a retrospective audit, say in December, if they say that we'll see and check compliances from March onward, that will be a challenge for the companies.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Sonal. It was really a good introspection into the question that we were looking for. Shubhajit, if I can direct the next question to you, is that in order to enter and remain in markets, so the pharma companies they need to be part of events such as seminars and conferences, which and also to ensure that healthcare professionals constantly stay updated along with the stakeholders, constantly stay updated and abreast of the various changes that are ongoing in the industry. So, do you believe that these events would get impacted by the UCPMP 2024?
Okay, very interesting question. So, but what I will do is that I'll take it up from Sonal, and I will just touch upon on a few things where 2014 the UCPMP which was there in 2024 in those 10 years, what have changed in the same thing, and then I will do a deep dive into your question. The first thing that has happened over that was that UCPMP 2014 did not have timelines like 3 months you have to solve this case, weeks or 3 months you have to. Now you have more timeline on it. So you have a 6 month time. Also, the very important thing which has happened is that you can include government officials in the APEX committee of approval. That's something which is there, which is very important for us. The biggest thing is that which has happened is that now the DOP, which is Department of Pharmaceuticals, has the power to issue standing orders. So beforehand, and it's very simply, it's written that UCPMP 2024 grants power to issue standing order for the furtherance of the new code provision and for purpose of removing difficulties in the code's operation. And so you can understand that it's such broad thing that all of a sudden there is an increased oversight on the matter from DOP also. Next, coming to the next point which I wanted to touch about is that it has talked about something which was, as you said, did not talk much about is continuing medical education and continuing professional development. This is something which was not there in the old thing. They have put in the new thing, and these things can come under the CME event kind of a CME event kind of CME framework. So of course the CME framework is out a very important thing. But for what are you using it? It should not be given to the doctor, as Sonal said, for recreation. It should not be. So if somebody is going as a speaker and is presenting his views or presenting a paper, they're okay with it. But if somebody is just traveling there, and I have being a lawyer, I have heard about certain incidents, which is my personal opinion, that there have been incidents where the medical professional has gone for a 3 day conference, has attended first half, and then has started doing sightseeing. So that kind of thing, that is something which they want to break up, and the framework is very important. And they have told that whenever you are doing this, or disclosure is also another thing which is being the reason requirement. Uh, Another thing which I want to talk about is the support of research. So the new company has told that expense incurred for research is an allowable interest under IT Act. So the thing is that wherever you are doing a bona fide research, you can find out and then you can say what exactly is happening. Moving towards one other very stricter enforcement. It was a toothless tiger, frankly speaking. There were a lot of things we were speaking about it, and we were not able to implement anything. It was a voluntary code. Now it is being made mandatory. So what happens is that it creates problem for the pharma companies to have a more stringent SOP policy. And coming to your main question, which was there, is that where the people say that what exactly they are doing? They are doing brand reminders, and the brand reminders, the ages of brand reminders covers your entire gamut of all things, including your CMEs. So, and I want to just talk about something where they have told that on the brand reminder perspective, you used to organize the CMEs and everything, and used to give out free samples. And free samples used to be given for medical professionals, and in terms of all that, and then you used to give out certain stuff telling that these are for information and educational items, which are not, frankly speaking. This books, calendars, diaries, journals, dummy medical models, treatment guidelines. Now they have put a monetary thing on. They have told that you can give as long as the value for each of these items is 1,000. So now that is also something which very important thing which they have put in. And uh, another thing that they have told is basically it's not only the healthcare professionals, it's also the health family members of healthcare professionals. So if I am not traveling, you are giving my wife a free trip. That is also is blocked on that. And uh, another very important thing we want to say is that it is very enshrined in this policy, and I think it gives you a very fair disclosure advantage. Which is the monetary value of the free samples distributed should not exceed percent of the domestic sale of such company per year, and the giver and recipient must be complying with the relevant income tax provision in respect of deduction and reporting of income. So that becomes very important from the CME perspective. If there are certain things which are given to a doctor, then you make a fair disclosure about it. It becomes easier for everyone to. So they frankly speaking, they're not stopping for certain events being organized. The only thing that they are stopping is that they're making it more systematic and more transparent.
Yeah, just to add with Suvajit, so the event, what I believe that the intention of the regulatory authority is not to stop all the CME, but to direct that the CME should focus on educational and medical scientific exchanges and not as a extravagant luxurious event for the HCP as a benefit. So like the one of the requirement is that foreign CME at foreign location is prohibited. So so if you want to give education to or any scientific exchange is going to happen, why foreign location is needed? It can very well arrange in India as well. So these kind of things which I believe that it is fair enough. It's fair. Instead of that, pharma company should focus on good amount of that cost can be utilized in the innovation, market research, rather spending on foreign locations. So I believe this is a good welcome initiative from the government side.
But thank you to both of you. Just one more follow up on this to you, Sonal, is that as a part of this of the extent specific guidelines on the way relationships need to be handled with healthcare professionals and medical representatives as well. So what I wanted to understand is how and what kind of awareness programs do you undertake to ensure that the medical representatives and people who are engaging with healthcare professions are in line with the regulatory requirements under UCPMP 2024?
Yeah, so here the answer will be what I believe is that only training can help pharmaceutical company to implement and to create awareness till ground level. So the first target audience will be the sales and marketing, because they are frontline employees dealing with HCP day to day. They are also face off of the company. They are representing company. So there should be a thorough knowledge of the guideline as far as these employees are concerned. So they should be well aware of what can be done, what cannot be done. So the first thing what I will suggest that the pharmaceutical company can incorporate all these provisions in their SOPs. So while giving training on the SOPs, the employees can so as far as the employees well versed with the SOP, and if SOP is in alignment with the UCPMP, they are like very well taking care of the provisions of the UCPMP. Of course, we need to train medical affairs, regulatory affairs, because they are the people who are approving the promotional content. So they should be mindful that the promotional content should be evidence based. It should not be misleading. So the training can help a lot to the pharmaceutical companies. So the frequency of training needs to be managed. New employees, this training can be through e-module. New employees can be given the training on the SOPs or UCPMP during their induction. Without that, they should not be allowed to start their field work, so that while representing the company, they are not doing something which is non-compliance of the code. So you can organize this training through e-modules, through in the different types of meeting which companies are having with the sales and marketing. And of course, what impact this training has given, whether the employees has very well taken it or not, the companies can do the audit to check that. So the audit activity should be should be at a frequent level. So if it is a quarterly audit, that can help to assess whether the activities are going in line with the code. So the annual training, quarterly training. So I'll say that the training is the only thing which will help pharmaceutical company to ensure that the code is being very well practiced by the all the employees till the ground level. And of course, the top management should be taking that responsibility, because the tone can always be set from the top. So the I will say the training to top management is also needed, so that they can understand the objective behind this code, as well as the requirement, and then that can be cascaded to the ground level employees.
So to add
Thank you,
one thing,
thank you so much.
one small thing.
Yes, Shubhajit.
As Sonal said, the most important thing is there are two things, right? There is an internal setup which we need to do, and there is an external setup. So, as you said, the first thing I will believe is top down. If your MD, if your director says that this is the policy we follow, nobody in below who is a simple MR or somebody will be able to do it. So, it's also the company culture and the company ethics that you are putting in becomes very, very essential here. Putting on, and the second thing is that the external factors. See, these are all done for doctors. If doctors and the healthcare professionals becomes aware of the implementation of the implications of certain violation which is done, then they will also not expect such a thing from the pharmaceutical company. So that is, you are doing two-way management, the internal stakeholder management as well as the external stakeholder management. Then only it can happen that your laws, your UCPMP guidelines can be implemented in its true sense.
Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Sometimes, just Ananya to add on,
Yes,
because sometimes while we give this training, while we emphasize that the code needs to be followed and all, there is resistance from the sales team, because they are the people who are dealing with HCP, and if HCP is demanding something, so it is very difficult for them to say no for that. So if they because if they say no, some other company is providing those facilities to HCP, so they don't want to lose on that part. So rightly Suvajit says that it is external stakeholder management as well. So I'm completely in alignment with that internal as well as external stakeholder training and management should be in place.
Yeah, and I think what you both mentioned is that the culture, the ethics of the company and top downwards is what essentially works best. And coming from someone who has been in the world of pharma, and generally for us as compliance professionals, that is something that we also mandate. So I think that kind of leads me to another question, which is, I know that you have broadly gone into that a little bit, but if we can just talk briefly about the effect of non-compliance, or what kind of best practices are being done, both from, if we can touch upon both Schedule M as well as the UCPMP. I think we've talked about the UCPMP, and from an FDA. So Suvajit, you mentioned that companies being in foreign jurisdictions, their kind of audits that they have on the Indian system. What are the kind of best practices, or how do you recommend Indian pharma companies should be ready for, obviously these are a lot of it are surprise inspections. So how do you think we can be ready for these kind of foreign inspection or FDA inspections, or generally anyone, not just FDA, but we know that the US FDA is very, very strict. So that's why I said FDA. But generally, how do you think we can be ready for that?
Okay, so let me take this question and I ask a question back to you. What is the cost of compliance? What is the cost of non-compliance? That is the biggest question that the company needs to answer. If because of non-compliance you get a 352 notice and then you get your companies in the verge of getting closed, then you understand the value of compliance. So becomes very important from. I want to talk about both the things. So first I will talk about the UCPMP, which I have touched upon also. The thing is that till now the UCPMP was not a voluntary code. So I need to just disclose telling that I am doing this, doing that. It is nobody is doing a deep dive into the same and nobody is taking me to the code telling me that what you have disclosed is false or what you have disclosed is not true in the truest of sense. And so that becomes a very, very effective thing from a UCPMP perspective. What happens with the new law is that you have to do those disclosures mandatory and you will be held responsible for those disclosures if there are certain things which are found which are not according to the requirement or things which are there, then you have legal implications to it. From the perspective is that it becomes very important from the compliance perspective. And another thing, the directors are also held liable for anything that are being done by their own employees. So your director cannot claim that, oh, I was not aware, he was just an employee who was doing. It is the whole company's responsibility that each of your employees are following certain basic legal things. And as Sonal said, it's very important that before I go as an MR, go to the vet, I need to have evidence that I have completed certain trainings. Very importantly, it can be an online training, which you have on e-modules, where it can show that these trainings were completed by me before I went. So whatever reasonable care a company can take from a perspective where teaching their employees who are your frontline salespeople becomes very, very important. And the cost of non-compliance is essentially something which you look at. See, as long as you are not caught or you are not anything, there have been I have dealt with the pharma companies who have told me that there have never been an implementation. I told you can be the first one. So that's something which you need to keep in mind from the perspective. Coming on to Schedule M thing is basically they want to make sure that the drugs you are providing to people, both in India as well as to other countries where it's going, you are meeting the basic standards of preparing those drugs. Why? Because you are preparing certain things which people are consuming. They are getting it into their body. Or you are using certain material where there is a enclosure in the body. So that's what they are telling. Because we want to follow certain processes which meet the minimum standard. And if you are not meeting the minimum standard, your licenses can get cancelled. Your directors can be held vicariously. Your director can be held liable for that thing. So what I will say is that cost of non-compliance is huge, and if people understand that the cost of non-compliance is there and you pay some 200% penalty or something like that, then it will become a exemplary example for people telling that this kind of pecuniary damages can be put if I am not complying with the requirement.
Yeah, that's yeah, no, thank you for that. I think we can carry on this conversation. There have been so many that have come into the recent past. I think post-COVID also, there have been so many on the drugs that have come about and all the sanctions around it, impurities, bringing, the premises have to be a particular, in a particular way. So I think, but we don't have so much of time. So we will.
I just want to tell one small thing here. One small thing is that, see, while we get the accreditation right from UCP, say from USFDA or anything, we follow that certain standards. But remember that reaching on top is not the goal. Maintaining your position there is very important. Because when somebody comes and does the inspection and gives you the accreditation for it, the certification for it, then your everything is tipped off. But when there is a surprise audit, somebody just comes in a civil clothes and just enters, then he sees that the policies are not there. And that's why US FDA is doing so much good, because they have increased the manpower in India, and they can go and audit things which are there on plants where they have given certification without anything. And I have been hard. I have there are such audits being happening, and you can understand these surprise audits will keep people on toes and will make sure that the compliance is implemented.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I have one last question, which I want to point to both of you, and just want a very brief understanding of. So when you're looking at, let's say, a compliance tool, what is it? What are the checkpoints that you would look at when you're evaluating a compliance tool?
Sonal, you want to take it? I can take it.
Compliance tool.
If both of you can just spend a little time, I mean, we're conscious of the time.
I'll take 30 seconds on it. So what I look at, I look at only three things on my compliance tool, frankly. First one is the time at which it is it real time? How quickly it is getting updated? Is because India is a country where we are part of union where there's a lot of states, and we are both have the central laws as well as state laws. So it becomes how quickly it is updated. Second thing I want to find out is that how accurate it is. So it is able to pick out the data which is there, and the third thing that becomes very important for me is how user friendly is your tool. Those are the 3 points which I look, because I know if somebody in say in Sikkim needs to implement certain laws, and if he is not able to navigate through the tool easily, then it is not much of an use for me from a company perspective.
Yes, I believe Suvajit has clearly captured what anyone can look at the tool. Like these are the like prime thing which anyone wants. It should be user friendly as well as accuracy as well as real time updation, because there are so many laws and so many changes. Notification keeps coming, so that is utmost important.
Okay, so to sum that up, if I can, the takeaway will be that you want the legal updating system as well as technology to kind of be married, and that be visible to you. All right. That was excellent. Sorry, Jovajit.
So technology should make our life easier and not tougher. So implementation should not be painful to us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. It's been an absolutely fantastic session. Thank you, both of you, for joining us.
We have received some questions from the audience. We will be taking a few more minutes to address a couple of these questions, as we have overshot our time a little. Going to the first question, what must companies do with the self-declaration if they are not members of any pharmaceutical association? Okay, so Ananya, if you can take that question up for the audience.
Sure. If a company, a pharmaceutical company, is not a member of a pharmaceutical association, the CEO's self-declaration of compliance should be submitted directly to or submitted on the UCPMP portal of the Department of Pharmaceuticals. I think that's a simple
absolutely, and thank you so much for that, Ananya. We have also received another question from the audience, which is how do you anticipate the requirement for an annual self-declaration by the executive head, and how will it impact the internal compliance mechanism of pharmaceutical companies? So will this lead to more rigorous internal audits? Sonal, if you're able to, Sonal, if you're able to take this question up and share your practical thoughts on this point.
So this is regarding veterinary practices question. Because I just lost network in intermittent time. So if you can repeat the question again, please.
Sure, Sunil. So the question is, how do you anticipate the requirement for an annual self-declaration by the executive head will impact the internal compliance mechanisms of the pharmaceutical companies. So it basically wants to ask that whether this point on the self-declaration to be submitted by the organization's CEO, how will that impact the internal compliance mechanisms of pharmaceutical companies? And will this lead to more rigorous internal audits to ensure that they have the comfort to provide that self-declaration?
Yes, I believe that some impact will happen on the compliance framework of the company because, as I already mentioned, that there are some provisions as far as samples are concerned, as far as claims, marketing claims are concerned. Companies are present in social media and all. So, declaration is given by CEO that all the provision of UCPMP are complied with. So before giving that declaration, there should be some comfort level, and that will come only after audit of all those mechanism has been done, and no audit point has been then only he can give that declaration that my company has complied with all these things. So to give that declaration, some mechanism needs to be in place, like as far as samples are concerned, whether we are tracking all the samples with and the format is also given under UCPMP, like what details you need to maintain. Also you need to keep a track of the expenditure done on the CMEs as well as HCPs. So you need to like frame, you need to design a framework, like how you will maintain the data, how you will track that data, and how you are going to audit that data. Because the new implementation and monitoring that implementation is something very important before giving that declaration by MD. Because unless and until that is in place, no management will give declaration that okay, I have complied with, just on the paper. Before giving that, they need some comfort level, and it will come only after the audit as well as the proper compliance framework in place.
Thank you so much for that, Sonal. I was just thinking of taking one last question before we wrap up for today's session. The code outlines specific guidelines for collaborations between pharmaceutical companies and healthcare professionals in research. How can companies balance the need for innovation with the strict adherence to these new guidelines, new ethical guidelines? So, Sonal, I would have to circle back to you on that as well. If you can shed some light on the practical aspects of this particular question.
So see, as far as research is concerned, there is a clear-cut thing which is mentioned in the UCPMP that that research needs to be registered, that HCP needs to be from the registered. They have to be, it should not be any random research that pharmaceutical company can find sponsored. So of course it will have an impact on the daily, I will say, on the practices of the company. Because now earlier, what I have experienced, that it's like whosoever approaches, whosoever HCP approaches pharma company are ready to sponsor that research and all. But now under the UCPMP, there are specific criteria, only those research can be funded. So what I will say here is that the approach is now very well designed. It is not and it will be the outcome focus approach as far as research funding is concerned. It will not be any random research on which the pharma company can spend money. Of course, they have to be mindful on where they are spending the money. And I guess it is like intention of the authorities to channelize that fund on the proper research, and not just the namesake research what has been observed by them. And that's why they have incorporated this provision in the guideline.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that insight, Sonal. And we have received a lot of other questions too, but due to paucity of time, we will not be able to take them up now. We will respond to each of these questions to the sender on email. And thank you everyone for joining the session. A special thanks to you, Sonal, and to Shubhajit for bringing out time from their extremely busy schedules today to join the session. And an even bigger thank you to all members of the audience for joining the session and actively participating. Thank you so much.